Welcome. My name is Gena Timberman, and you are listening to Timber People, a podcast about people who, like timber, are strong, build and create, who gather us together like fuel that feeds fire. People who support structures of our community that uplift and protect. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have my friend Leon Natker, who is the director of the Oklahoma History Center Museum. Welcome, Leon.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with you again.
I'm so excited to dive into our conversation about the exhibit that you've had up at the museum, and also upcoming exhibit that I think is going to be really beautiful. And I would like to share with the listeners that if you don't know, our state history center, the Oklahoma History Center, and our state historical society have just the most outstanding art collection. And I'm so happy that, Leon, that you have really lured these really special pieces out of the collection to share with the public and to our citizens here. I saw it with you this week, and it is just beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. When I came onto the museum, I started to look through the collections, through the database, and I noticed that there was this tremendous art collection. And I started to explore it, and I thought, well, goodness gracious, what a better way to talk about history than through the artists and their interpretations. So I went back into the Native American collection, and we have pieces starting back in the 1870s. We may have a few hide paintings that predate that, but ledger art and so on from the 1870s on. And I thought, what topic can we focus on this first time round? Because this is just going to be the first time round. There'll be several more exhibits along this line. And Into the Mirror came into my head because one of the things I think that's most, if you will, controversial or difficult about representations of Native Americans has always been of the people. And who is supposed to represent the people? That's been a controversy since the beginning of colonization. The very first people off of the boat started drawing pictures of the people that they encountered. And as we all know, there are wonderful representations of Native Americans. It also runs the gamut from overly romantic and valorized to really tacky, if you will, the team logos and so on and all that. So I thought, let's look at how Native American artists look at their people and the other people and the other Native Americans around them. So that's why it's called Into the Mirror. It's Native American artists looking at Native Americans.
It's really great. And you have in the show that's up now about 20 Native artists represented. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. And they run, like I said, it starts with Buffalo Meat, who was a Cheyenne artist in the 1870s and 80s, eventually became a chief of the Cheyenne Nation. And then Naishe, who was the last hereditary chief of the Chiricahua Apache, who was also a very well-known artist at the end of the 19th century, working mostly in hide painting, but also in some of the graphic arts, the Western-style graphic arts. And then you have this tremendous explosion in Oklahoma in the 1920s, brought about by the what I call the Kiowa style. Some people say the Kiowa 5, the Kiowa 6. It was Oscar B. Jacobson at University of Oklahoma started a program modeled on the program that Dorothy Dunn had done at the Santa Fe Indian School. And the first group of students were all from the Kiowa tribe, and they had a tremendous influence on art, not just Native American art, but art in general in the United States. They were brought, the derivation of the term the 5 or the 6 comes from the first American Indian art show in New York in 1931, and there were 5 of them brought for that exhibition, all men. There were women in the group, but they brought the men. You make of that what you will, but it was 1931. And suddenly their form of art became emblematic of American art. That was what the critics said. This is truly American art. And they worked in all kinds of styles, there's some Woody Crumbo, Woody Bigbo, Herman Topa, Mopope. They're just a tremendous group of artists, and their work. And you can see their work. Several of them have murals still at the Department of the Interior. Several of them went to Hollywood and designed movies. Who is it? It's Archie Blackhall. He worked for Disney. Mm-hmm. So you see their work. They were tremendously influential in the American art scene, and their representations of other Native Americans I think is very, very significant.
I think it's so great that you have that diverse mix and representation over the years, dating back, the years that you expressed, and also people we know in our community today that are doing really incredible works of art, creating and designing. And when we were talking, that sense of some may think that art and history are separate in silos. And really that sense of that new historicism, of that reciprocal relationship of learning about history through art and art through history, I think is really important. And I'm so happy that now our citizens and people visiting our History Center can experience diverse representations of our talented Native artists.
Oh, it's tremendous and ongoing. I mean, we have got just here in Oklahoma, such a great group of living artists going on right now that are working in all kinds of mediums. They're, not just traditional watercolors or acrylic and oil on canvas and sculpture, but in beadwork. They're taking, collage and so on. And I mean, we have tremendous beadwork portraits in this exhibit. We do have one piece by Sharon Aton-Harjo, a very early piece of hers from the 1960s. And she is, of course, still very much active in the community. I think what it shows about history is also, if you look back at the very beginning of this particular exhibit, you start in the 1870s, you're looking at the first kind of coming out of the old style of ledger art and moving into a much more modern view of how Native artists can view themselves and view their community. I mean, one of the things that I always found interesting, many years ago, I was at an opening of a show by Fritz Scholder in Chicago. Right. And this is 40 plus years ago. And Fritz got up to talk, and he said, "My constant question is, am I an Indian artist, or am I an artist who just happens to be an Indian?"
Yeah, it's Indian, not Indian, not Indian. That show was incredible.
Yeah, so it's, that's what we're trying to explore with this. It's just a taste of what we have. There's a lot of our collection is now at the Judicial Center where the Supreme Court is. And where there's lots more down in storage. So this show will be open till the end of this year. And then next January, we'll change it out. And I have a whole nother show already in the wings, ready to show our artists. And what's wonderful in exploring this is, like I said, we not only have pieces in the traditional, watercolors and paintings on canvas. We've got pencil sketches by these people, and their talent is just it's mind-boggling. It's just I get excited, and I get lost down in collections sometimes for days, and my staff wonders where's Leon? Where is he gone? Go down to collections. He's probably down there, because I start opening things, the cabinets up and looking for things. So it really excites me. And like I said, each era you can see differences, and you can see how the artists are perceiving the world. I mean, after all, art is the single way we have as human beings of interpreting the world we live in. Mm-hmm. And we see examples now dating back 40,000 years and more. And every place you go, the artists see the world differently. We know that it's based on worldview. It's based on cosmology. Why does one culture develop figurative art, and we have cave paintings where you can tell the species of the animals, right, and others, it's all geometric. Yeah. And it happens at the same time. Mm-hmm. Why? I'm an anthropologist. If anybody comes up with a good answer, they're going to have a most tremendous career if they can explain why each culture has its own way of looking at the world.
Well, speaking of career, in this new role in your career, just this past year, you dove in really headfirst with implementing some really cool new exhibitions at the History Center. And I know that you have one scheduled for June that is going to be really terrific.
This is very exciting. On June 6th, we are opening Inaugural Impressions. Now, this exhibit is based on, we have the inaugural ball gowns of all of the first ladies of Oklahoma. And that goes back to 1907 to Lillian Haskell, right through Sarah Stitt. And unlike past iterations of this exhibit, which were done as fashion shows, basically, which was fine. That's a perfectly good way to look at it. I am using it to explore how the first ladies of Oklahoma became civically engaged, how they engaged the public, what they used the platform of being the first lady to be. You know, they set themselves off, they come to the inaugural ball dressed in a certain way, and that's their first presentation. And we go, basically, there's three periods. The very first period, the women saw themselves as being what was going to support their husbands, was to be really good housewives and mothers. That, you know, the 1920s and 30s, they all had families. They had, and they really supported their husbands in that way. Lillian Haskell was, what a character. She was an anti-suffragist, did not believe in votes for women. She said woman's place was to support her husband no matter what. She used to go around with him on political campaigns with an apron in her purse. And when they would stop for lunch at a hotel or restaurant, she would barge into the kitchen, put on the apron, and she cooked dinner. Now, here's an interesting little tidbit. Exactly 100 years from the day that she left office in 1911 to 2011, it's exactly 100 years from an anti-suffragist being a first lady to our first female governor.
Oh, wow.
I mean, isn't that an interesting little
really
bit of synchronicity there? 100 exactly to the day.
Yeah, you know, it's great. You know, I love fashion and especially love seeing, and I'm excited to see what pieces are in the show, but they're all conversation pieces about our history and about people and their ways of thinking and belief and life ways. And so it's going to be fun to see.
It is. It's really interesting because they all realized, especially even right at the beginning, they had a lot of Paris originals. And it was they were trying to show in the early 20th century that being the governor of Oklahoma, this person deserved to be on the national stage. They were equals to the president and the first lady in Washington. And it was important that they showed themselves to be very elegant, very sophisticated. They were all very, very sophisticated. Many of them had been trained as teachers. They were school teachers. And they wanted to let their reflected glory shine on their husbands. So, and then we get in the modern period, which starts with Donna Nye in 1979. Every first lady since then has used it as a platform for different social causes. They have all been extremely active in, particularly in education, many in disabilities. Donna Nye, of course, the Donna Nye Foundation is about mental health disabilities, but every one of them since then has been very, very active in social causes, including Sarah Stitt. And of course, Kathy Keating probably had the most difficult term because within the first 100 days of Frank's term, we had the Murrow bombing. So she organized all kinds of charitable functions, the National Prayer Service for it. One of the objects we have in the exhibit is one of the teddy bears that they used, the comfort bears. And so it's really interesting to see the development over the 120 plus years of how they change their roles. They change what they're doing because then some of them had careers of their own. Right. You know, we had a Secretary of State, we had a judge, Grace Kerr had a restaurant in Poto. Shirley Bellman had her own sewing business where she made dolls and clothes. She actually made both of her inaugural gowns. So that's all original. So you have this great diversity, but ultimately it's all about civic engagement. And that's what we want. When kids come to the exhibit, we want them, of course, the dresses are wonderful. They're spectacular.
Right.
There's no two ways about it. I mean, we have a Dior in there. We have several, Paris originals. We have some originally designed and then made elsewhere for them. But I want the young people to come away from it going, oh, this is what civic engagement is about. This is how we're supposed to serve the public.
Right. Our first ladies, they have been warriors and important ambassadors. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing the show. And I know that you have been assembling and meeting with people around the state representing different tribal cultural backgrounds, different indigenous grassroots community leaders, knowledgeable individuals, people representing their tribal historic preservation offices and others, in order to gain feedback and input that will ultimately lead to important groundwork for some updates to the Oklahoma History Center at the right time and to further the relationships throughout Indian country here.
Correct. We will be in 2027 changing out what is now the Native American Gallery, and we are developing an exhibit we're calling The Land of Sun, Wind, and Grass. Which was what one of the early tribes here in Oklahoma referred to the land as. It makes sense. Although one of my younger colleagues on our advisory panel said it should now be the land of sun, wind, grass, and heat.
Right.
But we're working with a younger group of tribal leaders from the TIPO offices and the CPOs and so on, to gain insight and how we want to tell the story of Oklahoma. Because Oklahoma's indigenous population, there have been people on the land of Oklahoma dating back between 17 and 20,000 years ago. So we have ancient mammoth hunters, we had archaic hunter-gatherers. The first villages in Oklahoma date back between 3,000 and 4,000 years ago. And there's both woodland culture and plains culture at that time. So we have to tell all of these stories, as well as the stories of all of the tribes that were moved here in the 19th century. Mm-hmm. So it's very diverse. And now that we have so many wonderful tribal museums, right, which we didn't have 20 years ago, right, and we have First Americans Museum, which we didn't have 20 years ago, we can tell a different story at the History Center and really cover this broad picture of indigenous people in Oklahoma, going back to the very beginnings that we have of the basic findings of human contact here in the state, what we call now the state of Oklahoma. So I'm really excited about that, and it's going to be a process. Right. It's because this is going to be a very big change. We will be gutting a gallery and completely changing everything.
It's exciting. I know that the summer is upon us. What do you have in terms of public programs and experiences that will be offered at the History Center this summer?
This summer, we have the two exhibits, Into the Mirror and Inaugural Impressions will be up all summer into next year. And then we're preparing for another big change in the fall. Actually, we're just getting through our school, what I call our school days. Right. We're getting to we have hundreds of school kids every day right now, and it's wonderful. I love seeing them there. But in the fall, we'll be opening a new exhibit on sports, Oklahoma sports heroes, past, present, and future. And one of the things that we've got coming up that no other museum in this region has is we have recorded Coach Barry Switzer to do a story file presentation. If you're familiar with the technology, it was developed for the Los Angeles Holocaust Museum, and it's an algorithm that allows you to go and actually ask questions of Coach Switzer, and he responds. So he came in a couple of weeks ago and recorded for us. Takes many days to actually do this so that we can cover many, many different topics. And he told many stories that he said, I've never told this anywhere else. It's not in my book. This is the first time I'm actually speaking about it. So he's going to be able to talk about his life. And in next October, we will be able to offer this to the public. And I'm really excited about it because again, sports, I think, is so important to Oklahoma history and to our culture here in the state. And we've got all of that, coming up, as well as, just our day-to-day. We are open from Monday through Saturday. And one of the things I want people to know about is also the archive. The archive is a really important part of Oklahoma history. It is Oklahoma history, and it is open to anybody in the state for free. You can come and use the library between Tuesday and Saturday. And we have wonderful people there that can help you find things. If your family genealogy is from Oklahoma, it's there. We have the archives of the 39 tribes. The federal archives are housed with us. We have all, birth records, death records, everything is there. So if you're looking for something about Oklahoma and your family is from this state, from whatever period, from land rush era, from removal period, we've probably got something about your family. So come and use the archive. It's something the state provides for us.
Absolutely. That's an aspect a lot of people may not be aware about that resource. And also, I have to say that I was in the museum store the other day, and if someone is looking for a beautiful special gift that represents our state, I know that you're doing such a great job with the museum store and what there is to offer to share with others about our culture and our history here. Yeah,
there's all kinds of books, but we've got all kinds of different items that are actually a lot of new items will be coming in this summer. So if you're visiting this summer, and I just want to put it out there that in 2026, we all know it's the centenary of Route 66, and we're going to be having a special exhibit for that year in 2026 based on car culture. And we've got so many wonderful cars available to us, so we want to highlight that aspect of Oklahoma. Remember, we do have the longest stretch of drivable Route 66 left in the country, 426 miles. So there's all kinds of great things. So that's all coming up in the next 3 years. It really excites me, and the staff has been just so supportive and so excited about all of these upcoming exhibits that I hope everybody will come and visit. I know a lot of people always come up to me and they say, "Oh yeah, I love that museum. I went there when I was in 5th grade." When have you been back? Well, I haven't. Well, there's always something new going on. You know what else? I almost forgot. We're going to have a photo exhibit, WKY, which is now known as KFOR. This was, the Gaylord stations are celebrating their 75th anniversary as a television station. And that comes up in June, and we'll be having a photo exhibit opening in later June that celebrates that anniversary. And it's really remarkable. Oklahoma has actually been at the forefront of broadcasting because of the Gaylords from the days of radio and of course newspapers on. We were, after all, founded in 1893 by the Oklahoma Territorial Newspapermen's Association. So that's another little exhibit. So if you want to learn a little more about Oklahoma's history with broadcasting and radio and television, that'll be coming up this summer as well.
It's so great. Leon, thank you so much for all of the important work that you and your incredible team are accomplishing, and can't wait to have you back on the show for more updates.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. And, please come to the museum. It's a resource that the state provides for us. Come and use it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yakoki, thank you for joining us. Timber People is brought to you by the Possibilities Podcast platform.